Virginia Giuffre was the most prominent abuse victim of convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Now, tragedy struck her family last week after they say Giuffre died by suicide.
Her family told NBC News it is with utterly broken hearts that we announced that Virginia passed away last night at her farm in Western Australia. She lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and sex trafficking.
Giuffre said that Epstein sex trafficked her at age 16 and that Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's ex-lover and convict, recruited her during her time as a locker room attendant at Mar-a-Lago.
Giuffre also alleged that at 17 she was forced to have sex with Prince Andrew 3 times, something that he denies. Andrew settled for $12 million back in 2012.
Now, Giuffre posted an Instagram photo in late March of her lying down with a bruised face, saying she had just 4 days to live. She said that she had crashed with a bus that was allegedly speeding, but that the bus driver said she blew the situation out of proportion.
Giuffre tweeted in 2019 that she was not suicidal. I am making it publicly known that in no way, shape, or form am I suicidal. I have made this known to my therapist and GP. If something happens to me in the sake of my family, do not let this go away and help me to protect them. Too many evil people want to see me quieted.
So this is very, very sad. Obviously, this was the most prominent victim of the Jeffrey Epstein underage sex trafficking ring. She had, of course, accused Prince Andrew of the royal family. He denied it, but was sort of stopped being a public spokesperson for the royal family after those allegations. She has died by suicide, despite saying she was not suicidal and was not going to go through with that. I'm certainly not contesting the official verdict of suicide, although I'm sure there are going to be people all over the internet saying that she was silenced or something like that, given the suspicious circumstances of Jeffrey Epstein's death, which was also ruled a suicide, and I reasonably accept it is a suicide, but that there are many questions about how he was able to take his own life in prison under, why weren't guards paying closer attention to him, why weren't there security cameras on him, all those things. Now, there are answers for those things because jails are neglectful places where people are able to kill themselves, sadly, all the time. But there is a sense, and I understand why this sense exists, that powerful people who were involved in the abuse of underage women have gotten away with it. We don't know their names, even though we know the perpetrators. We know Jeffrey Epstein. We know some of the victims, like Virginia Giuffre. Who were the clients? Who were the other people who were abusing these girls? Did Jeffrey Epstein? Obviously, he knew. Was he killed to keep that quiet? That's something that a lot of people have asked about. I am certainly not claiming that is the case, but I understand why that fear persists, because he had associations with powerful people, government leaders, business leaders. He had a very problematic for them association with Bank of America and the Virgin Islands. Former presidents. He had met with Trump. He had Bill Clinton on speed dial. Bill Gates was someone who maintained a very unsavory association with him for so long that it actually spooked and concerned his ex-wife Melinda Gates, and it's been reported was one of the motivating factors in her decision to separate from him.
Right, and I think if we broaden this out, I think, one, she was such a courageous spirit to speak out, knowing who these people were and the types of people that were in their circle. So for her to be so courageous and to speak out despite knowing all of that. And then also, I think that this also pulls on another thread of when victims do speak up, there's such a low conviction rate. It's incredibly low. It's something like under 5%. And when they see the toll that it takes, mental health, on the family, the character assassination that often happens if it's done publicly or in a trial, or even if you don't go to trial, especially if you're going against very powerful people, will victims start to second guess really speaking up? And I think that, that's something that I hope not. But I think that sometimes when these kinds of headlines come out and the tragedies that come with speaking out, the toll, and there were multiple things that may have led to this. I don't want to speculate of her mental health at the time of her death, but we do know that others are watching and they're wondering, is it worth it to speak up? And I think that that's also a tragedy in this. If it's discouraging others who might be wondering, is it worth it if I won't even potentially get a conviction? My name's going to maybe get slandered. Is it worth it to come out? Because so often we don't even hear when these kinds of headlines happen because they're not known.
Right, and people who speak up about sexual misconduct, certainly they deserve our support, and they should be listened to. They should be, they deserve respect. You know, I am someone who, we talk about due process a lot. I believe in due process. I don't think you automatically believe or accept everything you hear and are told, because I don't think that's the way to go about it, but certainly victims of this kind of thing deserve their day in court, deserve to have their claims adjudicated, listened to, responded to, as was the case with Jeffrey Epstein, where there was tons and tons and tons of additional evidence of predatory sexual behavior toward underage girls, something he was convicted of once, and then somehow got the kindest conviction circumstance ever, where he could leave this cushy jail to go to work. It was basically a form of house arrest that he got away with. And then after that's done, he goes right back at it, and some of these same people continue associating with him. So their plausible deniability at that point is gone. You know, you can say that rich people hobnob with other rich people, and they can say, well, we didn't know what he was doing, but you knew at that point. You knew after he was convicted of it, you knew.
Yeah.
And you still took his phone calls. That's insane to me.
Yeah, you still decided to be his pal. And the reality is that false allegations over sexual crimes are not common, because who wants to be dragged through this? Now, I'm not saying it never happens, but nobody wants to go through the scrutiny that happens if you do go to court and you're talking about a sexual crime. It's the false allegations that are often talked about in media. It's not common.
Well,
it's not as common as people think it is. It's really not common, because what a woman or man has to go through to make those allegations, and then to proceed, meet with lawyers, spend money on lawyers, go to court, put your family out there. Your name may be out there. You may not get a job. There are so many ramifications for it. It's really, despite all the headlines people see of specific cases, and look, there's a lot going on right now if you look at what's happening with a particular, Club Shay Shay, and there's, all of those things going on, right? But, and I'm not speaking on that particular incident. We don't know yet. He has not gone to court. He's not been tried. But what we do know is it's just not common. It's not, and it's, I think it's a disservice to many who do have the boldness to come out.
Well, it's not common. It depends what you mean there. You're right that false reports to the police are uncommon. If you actually go through all the steps of, yes, filing a sexual misconduct claim or any kind of claim of violence, false reports to the police are rare. They're not non-existent, but
right,
they're not
common. Not common. Yeah.
But if we go back a couple years to the Me Too era of women speaking up or feeling more empowered to speak up about sexual misconduct they experienced on college campuses or in other contexts, a lot of those things were not reported to the police. Those are just women, telling their stories. The kinds of men who were accused under the Me Too era. Well, that's not the court standard. Those aren't always going to.
Some of this was public opinion. Yeah, some of it you could argue is public opinion. I was referring to making that police report. It takes a lot. It takes a lot, I think, for someone to go to that length. And that's what statistics show. It's not something that false allegations related to sexual crimes are not common. But when you go into the Me Too movement, there's also many who were bringing up things that happened 15, 20 years ago, which then raised a lot of questions of why didn't you report this? There was a lot more, many more threads that we won't get into right now. But
how can we
corroborate that?
Fairly adjudicate something that happened 20 years ago, and just in general, even if you want to, believe someone, show them respect, but you have no independent ability in some of those situations. Arguments over Brett Kavanaugh and even Joe Biden himself and Trump and all sorts of famous people facing such accusations. Coming up next, we will speak to a young Democrat who's taking heat from his own party. Find out why.